And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thursday morning's flying weather. We've got a lot of VFR out here over the Bering Sea, but you can see some lower conditions here just west of Shimianat 2. That was the next big front's going to be pushing eastward, so we'll see here in a little bit. Otherwise, starting out with some IFR along the southern slopes of the Brooks Range here, and then along the western Arctic coast, and a band of IFR here over the Gulf of Alaska. Not too bad over the inside waters there. Got some spotty areas of IFR, that due to low clouds and fog that'll form again overnight tonight there, and then start to burn off during the day tomorrow morning. VFR Kodiak Island, VFR much of the interior here, some lower conditions along the mountainous terrain, especially the Alaska range, a little more widespread down in toward Bristol Bay. And then for the afternoon, we've got marginal VFR here along the Alaska range, and then along the Yukon River down into the deltas, areas of marginal VFR there, eastern Norton Sound. IFR here advancing a little farther to the east on those southern slopes of the Brooks Range there, but retreating a little bit there to the western Arctic coast. And the southeast coast, VFR, areas of marginal VFR for the North Gulf Coast, right on down along the coastal areas of the Panhandle. And out to the west, that next active front pushing a band of IFR to about Amchitka Island. So it should be pretty good for Adak and Atka tomorrow afternoon, just VFR with maybe a little bit of lingering marginal VFR. IFR here just along the south sides of the eastern Aleutians and portions of the Alaska Peninsula. And for Friday morning, IFR, Brooks Range, North Slope on out toward the Arctic coast. A little bit of IFR here, looks like over the White Mountains there around the Fairbanks area and to the north actually. Otherwise, mostly VFR for the interior. Good VFR south of the Alaska Range, south central Alaska, down to Fognak Island, and then widespread IFR here pushing in across Adak, Atka, heading in toward the Fox Islands, and to a greater extent here over the Pribilof Islands, but holding VFR conditions, at least in the morning hours, for Nunivak and St. Lawrence Island. St. Matthew Island, marginal VFR. For the afternoon, IFR now, St. Matthew Island, Pribilof's coming on shore there for the Nunivak Island area, down across eastern Aleutians and along the south side of the Alaska Peninsula. Good VFR over interior Alaska here. Still looking at some IFR up over the eastern North Slope and Arctic coast, but good VFR right on down into the Gulf of Alaska, southeast coast, mostly VFR. For the passes, Anatuvik and Anatuvik, IFR here, especially on the southern approach, better conditions north side, and the same forecast for Adigan, IFR, mainly the southern entrance with higher conditions north. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR, looking pretty marginal for rainy, windy, kind of a marginal VFR day coming up for Thursday. Isabel starting out marginal, kind of bouncing around there between marginal VFR to VFR, trending more toward VFR into the afternoon. And Mentasta, VFR, Tanita, VFR. Portage starting out marginal, then becoming VFR. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels here, 2,000 feet over the North Slope, right on down into Norton Sound, and over the northern Bering Sea, 4,000 to 8,000 feet here along the Aleutians, and then upper level ridging here, shifting eastward and southeastward, and with the warm air aloft associated with that, we've got 12,000 foot freezing levels here over the southeast coast. That'll aid in that inversion later tonight and into early tomorrow, leading to some low clouds and fog in areas down that way. And looking at the icing chart here, strong low over the Arctic Ocean sliding eastward. Look for considerable moderate rime icing or possibly mixed for the Arctic coast, North Slope, maybe down into the Brooks Range. Otherwise, isolated moderate in areas here down in toward the Alaska Range. And out to the west, the next front, pushing a band of pretty good icing potential of considerable moderate rime varieties there into the western Aleutians. And the jet stream here, that getting pushed eastward here by 115 knot southwest winds, ridging here over the Bering Sea to the east, and then we've got this upper trough here with the center just off the Arctic coast there at 33,000 feet, moving eastward. So 115 to 125 knots. Southwesterlies there to the east of that, northwest up to 115 along the southwest coast. In the backside, a ridge right here across the southeast coast. Northeast winds 65 knots there, just clipping Dixon Entrance. And at 9,000 feet, light winds here across the Panhandle. Westerlies 40 knots along the North Gulf Coast. A broad area of westerly winds here with this low tracking eastward there just off the Arctic coast, anywhere from 40 to 55 knots. And northwesterlies 55 knots here across the Alaska Peninsula, diminishing a little bit into the southwest Gulf, ridging right through here. And then ahead of that next active front, we've got 65 to 85 knot winds at 9,000 feet. Let's see what it looks like at 3,000 feet. Pretty good winds at this elevation too. Very strong front here, 65 to 70 knot winds coming into the western Aleutians, up to 50 knots over toward Atka Island by the afternoon. High pressure right through here, light winds associated with that. Westerlies 35 knots, west-southwesterlies 35 knots in the central interior. Even stronger winds there with that low just off the Arctic coast, 40 to 50 knots right across the north slope, strongest over the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline. And then with this low here in Prince William Sound, the higher pressure to the southwest, we've got some northwesterlies through Kamishak Gap and through the Barren Islands there up to 40 knots. With those winds, look for some considerable moderate turbulence there for southern Cook Inlet down to northern Fognak Island, maybe Seldovia, Homer area. Very widespread area, considerable moderate turbulence here for the north slope and the Arctic coast. And out to the west, increase in the turbulence spreading eastward here with the wind field from about, at least Adak or Anatka westward all the way out to the Komodorskis. Considerable moderate turbulence in those areas.